I worked day and night to build that little bakery, and I thought my family was proud of me. But behind my back, they were planning something I never saw coming. The people I loved the most turned my biggest dream into their business deal. They took everything from me, my trust, my peace, my name. But they'll soon learn, you can't break a woman who learned to rise alone. My name is Emily, and I've always believed that family means everything. I live in a quiet little town where people still greet each other by name, and everyone knows who owns which shop. Our small bakery stands on the corner of the main street, a warm place filled with the smell of bread and my grandmother's memories. She built it from nothing, and after she passed, I promised myself I'd never let it fall apart. Every morning, before the sun rises, I open the shutters and light the ovens. It's not a big business, but it's honest. Sometimes I see my mother, Linda, watching me through the kitchen window, shaking her head as if wondering why I bother. My father, Robert, says emotions don't pay bills. Maybe he's right, but to me, this bakery is more than just work. It's love. It's legacy. It's home. At breakfast, we sit together, Dad buried in his newspaper, Mom checking bills, and my younger sister Chloe glued to her phone. I tell them a real estate developer came by again, offering a big amount for our bakery land. I told him no, of course. Chloe laughs, rolling her eyes, Emily, you're crazy. That money could change our lives. Dad agrees, saying it's time to think about the future. I smile softly and reply, some things are worth more than money. They exchange looks, but no one says anything. That evening, after closing the bakery, I sit alone at the counter, counting the little money we made that day. The bell above the door jingles as my parents step out with Chloe. I glance outside and see them whispering, their faces serious, their voices low. My heart feels uneasy for a moment, but I push the thought away. They're my family, why would I doubt them? Later that night, I sit by my window, writing in the old diary my grandmother gave me. I write, people change, but love should never have a price. For some reason, those words stay in my mind. The night feels colder than usual. The next morning, everything looks perfectly normal. Mom makes pancakes, Dad hums a tune, and Chloe hugs me for no reason at all. Everyone seems too happy. I laugh with them, believing that maybe things are finally getting better. But deep down, something feels off, a strange heaviness in the air that I can't explain. If only I had known what they were hiding. If only I had locked that bakery door forever. A few days passed quietly. The bakery kept running as usual, and I tried to ignore the strange feeling that something was wrong. One afternoon, when I came back from the market, I noticed an envelope lying on the counter. It had my name on it, and the logo of the town's property office. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were official papers showing that our bakery land had been sold. My heart stopped when I saw my own signature at the bottom of the contract, a signature I never wrote. I stood there frozen, unable to breathe. My mind screamed that it couldn't be true. I ran home, clutching the papers, my chest tight with panic. When I burst through the door, Mom looked startled, Dad's face turned pale, and Chloe, she just smirked. What is this? I asked, my voice shaking. You sold Grandma's bakery? Without even telling me? Dad sighed heavily, like he was tired of explaining. Emily, it's for everyone's good. We need the money. You're too attached to that old shop. I stared at him in disbelief. You forged my name, I whispered. You lied to me. Mom looked away, tears filling her eyes, but she didn't say a word. Chloe crossed her arms and said coldly, stop acting like a victim. You've been running that bakery like it's your personal shrine. Maybe it's time to move on. Her words cut through me like knives. I had loved her more than anyone, and now she was looking at me like a stranger. I wanted to scream, to cry, to break something, but no words came out. My throat burned as I turned away from them. You sold my heart, I said quietly, and you'll never get it back. I walked out of the house with nothing but my purse and the papers in my hand. Behind me, I could hear Chloe's voice mocking me, saying, you'll thank us one day. Outside, the town felt colder than ever. The same streets I'd walked every day now looked unfamiliar. People smiled as they passed by, unaware that my whole world had just collapsed. I reached the bakery and stood at the door, touching the old wood my grandmother once polished with love. The windows were empty, the shelves bare. Everything I built, everything I protected, gone with one cruel decision. That night, I packed a few clothes into a bag and left the house quietly. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I could never stay under that roof again. The people I trusted most had betrayed me. My family had sold me out, not just for money, but for their own comfort. And as I walked through the dark streets alone, I promised myself one thing: I would survive this. No matter what. The next morning, I woke up in a small rented room above an old cafe on the other side of town. It smelled of coffee and rain. The owner, a kind woman named Grace, let me stay there when she saw I had nowhere else to go. She offered me a job washing dishes and helping around the cafe. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me going. In those first few weeks, I barely spoke to anyone. My heart felt heavy all the time. Every time I passed by the bakery street, I turned my face away. The new owners had already put up a big sign: future site of Silver Ridge Development. I couldn't even look at it without feeling like something was being ripped out of me again. The small town gossip started soon after. I could feel people whispering when I walked by. Some said I sold the bakery myself. Others said I took the money and ran. Nobody cared to know the truth. It's strange how fast people believe lies when they come from your own family's mouth. There were nights when I cried silently, thinking about Grandma's laughter, about the smell of bread that once filled my life. I kept asking myself, how could they do this to me? But every morning, I still showed up at the cafe, washed dishes, served customers, and smiled through the pain. I was learning to stand again, piece by piece. Then one afternoon, while cleaning a table, I overheard two men talking near the counter. They mentioned that the development project on our bakery land had run into legal trouble, something about false documents and missing permits. My heart raced. For the first time in months, I felt a small spark of hope. Maybe the truth was starting to find its way out. That evening, I walked home under the streetlights, rain falling softly on my shoulders. I realized something important: I had lost everything, but I was still standing. My family might have broken me, but they couldn't destroy who I was inside. For the first time since the betrayal, I smiled. A quiet, lonely smile, but it was real. And deep down, I knew, karma had just begun its work. Weeks turned into months, and life slowly started changing. The cafe had become my safe place. Grace, the owner, treated me like a daughter. She trusted me with everything, from managing orders to talking to customers. For the first time in my life, I felt seen, not used. I began saving a little money every week, dreaming of one day opening a small bakery again, even if it was just a corner stall. Then one morning, Grace handed me a folded newspaper with trembling hands. "Emily," she said softly, "you should see this." The front page showed a big headline: Silver Ridge Project shut down, forged documents discovered. I stared at it for a long time, unable to believe my eyes. My family's faces flashed through my mind: Dad, Mom, Chloe, and I wondered what they must be going through. It wasn't joy I felt, it was justice. Quiet, inevitable justice. A few days later, a man in a gray suit walked into the cafe. He introduced himself as Mr. Allen, a lawyer handling the investigation. He said my name had come up in the case, my signature was forged, and the original property still legally belonged to me. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. After months of silence and pain, the truth was finally finding its way home. That evening, Mr. Allen helped me file the necessary papers to reclaim the bakery. The town soon found out what really happened. People who once whispered behind my back now looked at me with guilt in their eyes. The same neighbors who doubted me began offering kind words, saying how brave I was to stay quiet instead of fighting back with anger. Meanwhile, my family's life started to crumble. Dad lost the money in legal fees, Chloe's job ended when her name got tied to the fraud, and Mom stopped showing her face in public. They tried to reach out to me, first through calls, then through letters, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Not yet. One evening, as I stood in front of my old bakery again, keys in my trembling hand, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. The walls were dusty, the counters broken, but the place still smelled faintly of flour and memories. I walked in slowly, tears filling my eyes. "I'm home," I whispered to the air. Karma had done its work quietly, without shouting, without revenge, just balance. And standing there in the empty shop, I realized I didn't need anyone else to make things right. Life had already done that for me. It took months of repairs, late nights, and quiet determination, but the bakery finally came back to life. The walls were freshly painted, the counters polished, and the ovens warm again. I renamed it Grace's Corner, after the woman who helped me when I had nothing. Every loaf of bread, every cupcake, carried a piece of my pain, and my healing. On the morning of the grand reopening, the whole town gathered outside. Some came out of curiosity, others to support me. As I tied my apron, I looked at the door and saw familiar faces standing hesitantly at the edge of the crowd: Mom, Dad, and Chloe. They looked tired, smaller somehow, like life had drained the pride from their eyes. Mom walked up first, her voice trembling. "Emily, we're sorry. We lost everything, and we know we deserve it." Dad kept his head down, too ashamed to speak. Chloe's eyes were red, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I didn't know it would go this far. I was jealous, and stupid. I'm so sorry." For a long moment, I didn't say anything. My heart felt heavy but calm. I looked at them, not with anger, but with the kind of sadness that time can't erase. Finally, I said softly, "I forgave you long ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean I'll go back." They nodded silently, tears falling, and walked away. As they disappeared into the crowd, I took a deep breath and opened the bakery doors. The smell of fresh bread filled the street again, warm, sweet, and full of life. People clapped, children laughed, and for the first time, I felt completely free. When the sun began to set, I stood by the window watching people enjoy what I had built from ashes. Grace came over, smiling proudly. "You did it, Emily," she said. I smiled back, my heart full. "No," I replied softly. "Life did. It broke me, but it also rebuilt me." Outside, the sign above the door glowed under the evening sky: Grace's Corner. A name that meant second chances, strength, and the beauty of starting over. I looked up, whispered a quiet thank you to my grandmother, and smiled. Because sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find yourself again. If this story touched your heart, please like, share and subscribe.